Welcome to The Explainer. So, have you ever sat down at your desk, stared at a textbook for like 5 straight hours, and highlighted so much of the page you literally need sunglasses to read it, only to take the test the next day and realize your mind is completely blank? Yeah, it's a universally frustrating experience. Honestly, it kind of makes you want to just give up. But hey, here's the fantastic news. Learning isn't just about grinding away or trying harder. There's actually a method to the madness. Today, we're going to reveal the actual cognitive science behind learning. We're going to debunk some massive study myths that are definitely holding you back, and we'll show you how to build better habits that actually yield amazing results. Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's our roadmap for today. First, escaping the familiarity trap. Then, the science of memory, followed by sprints versus deep work. Fourth, better notes. And finally, building a balanced routine. I promise you, we're moving directly from brain science into highly practical execution. Section 1. Escaping the familiarity trap. Let's be completely honest for a second. Studying can feel incredibly stressful and overwhelming. So, I want to pose this question directly to you. Why do you study for hours and remember absolutely nothing? Just picture this micro scenario. You've just finished a massive late-night cram session. You finally close the book, feeling like an absolute academic champion, right? But the next morning, you're sitting in the exam hall, staring at a blank page, totally frozen. The information is just gone. What exactly went wrong here? Well, what you experienced is what cognitive scientists call the familiarity trap. And it's a really dangerous false sense of security. See, when we rely on traditional passive habits, like rereading a chapter over and over or turning a textbook page into a solid block of neon highlighter, our brain very easily recognizes the words on the page. We look at a highlighted sentence and think, yes, I know this. But what we're actually doing is mistaking that easy recognition for actual deep comprehension. Actually, let me rephrase that. Recognition is absolutely not the same thing as independent recall. And this brilliantly illustrates exactly what's happening, the Ebbinghaus forgetting curve. Just look at how drastically memory retention drops across a mere 3 days. Without active review, you lose a huge chunk of what you learned by day 1, even more by day 2, and by day 3, it's practically gone. We naturally lose access to the information stored in our memory over time. So if you just passively read a textbook and cram once, you're going to forget almost everything right as that exam paper is placed in front of you. Which brings us to Section 2. The science of memory. Now that we know why cramming fails us, let's look at the cognitive science solutions that actually combat this forgetting curve. The absolutely crucial first rule here is this: treat your brain like a muscle. You need to use active recall to strengthen it. Instead of just staring at your notes, you got to close the book and literally force your brain to retrieve the information from scratch. Try explaining the topic out loud to a friend, or use flashcards without flipping them over right away, or even just write down everything you can possibly remember on a blank piece of paper. Forcing your brain to work hard to find that info, it's exactly like lifting weights for your memory. It makes those neural pathways stronger and the information way easier to find next time. Now, what's really interesting about this is how we can actually mathematically time those mental workouts using the 2-3-5-7 spaced repetition method. Rather than enduring one awful marathon cram session the night before, you plot your review sessions backward from an exam date. You study the materials 7 days before, then 5 days before, 3 days, 2 days, and finally 1 day before. By reviewing the information just as your brain is about to naturally forget it, you completely interrupt that Ebbinghaus forgetting curve and lock that knowledge firmly into your long-term memory. It's a total game changer. Next up, let's look at how we structure that study time. First, we have blocking, which is studying one single topic for hours on end. Instead of that, try interleaving. This is where you mix different related topics together to force your brain to make complex connections. For example, instead of doing all your algebra questions followed by all your geometry questions, you mix them up. Now, I know interleaving might feel a lot harder and kind of frustrating at first, but research shows it vastly improves your long-term retention because it keeps your brain highly alert and engaged. Moving on to Section 3, sprints versus deep work. So, how do we actually handle our executive function and manage our time when we finally sit down at the desk? Well, you need to match your focus style to your task. Study sprints are these short, 5 to 20-minute bursts of high energy. They're absolutely perfect for tasks where you're learning discrete facts, like reviewing vocabulary flashcards or doing a quick active recall session. On the flip side, deep work requires 30 to 90-minute blocks of uninterrupted focus. This is designed for cognitively demanding tasks. Think drafting a research essay or solving complex, multi-step math proofs. You always have to match the tool to the task.
And if you're trying to figure out a great baseline for those intervals, just remember the number 25. This represents the famous Pomodoro technique rule, which, by the way, is actually named after a tomato-shaped kitchen timer. It involves 25 minutes of intense focus, followed by a 5-minute break. After 4 of these cycles, you take a longer 15 to 30-minute break. Look, studying for hours on end without stopping isn't productive. It's just exhausting. This 25-minute rule actively prevents burnout and keeps your brain fresh.
Let's move to and see how this builds into an amazing strategy to overcome task avoidance. If you're struggling to even start your Pomodoro session, you need the 2-minute launch. This is literally the ultimate hack for procrastination. Here's how it works. Step 1, start a 2-minute timer. Step 2, highlight the verbs in your assignment so you know exactly what action is required. Step 3, write the very first micro step on a sticky note. And step 4, define exactly what done looks like. It shrinks the overwhelming start of a project and turns your dread into immediate forward motion. Once you've launched into that deep work, you need to obey the rule of 1, the single tab rule. You are allowed exactly 1 browser tab for the task you're working on and 1 tab for your resource. That's it. No social media, no messaging apps. And speaking of distractions, you must park your phone in another room. Seriously, even a silent phone sitting on your desk will unconsciously drain your focus capacity. You have to ruthlessly protect your deep work environment. Section 4, better notes and mapping. We've optimized your time management, so now let's optimize how you handle and process the actual study material. If you want to take notes that actively help you learn, you've got to try the Cornell note-taking method. You basically divide your page into 3 specific sections. First, you have a main column on the right for your general lecture notes. Second, a narrow left column where you pull out key vocabulary words and write questions to quiz yourself on later. And third, a block at the bottom for a brief, active summary of the page's content. This method forces intentional note-taking and instantly creates a document that's primed and ready for active recall revision.
Another really powerful way to process information is through dual coding and concept mapping. This involves combining words with visual pictures and spatial organization. So, for example, you write down a vocabulary word, draw an arrow to a related concept, and write an explanation of how they connect directly on the arrow itself. By spatially organizing your thoughts on paper, you're literally mapping out the cognitive architecture of your brain. It reinforces connections, making the information significantly easier to retrieve later on during an exam.
And that brings us to Section 5, building a balanced routine. Let's bring all these powerful tactics into a holistic view of your daily life and well-being.
So the crucial point is this. Continuous studying without rest, sleep, or physical activity is just completely counterproductive. To build a truly balanced routine, you need to time block your priorities. You have to take physical breaks to stretch or walk. Create a dedicated, distraction-free study space. Fuel up with brain-boosting foods instead of sugary snacks that just lead to crashes. And importantly, set a strict, non-negotiable cutoff time for sleep. Your brain actually processes and retains the information you learned while you sleep. So if you skip sleep to cram, you're actively sabotaging your own hard work.
I want you to really let this quote sink in from Eternal Purpose Recovery. Remember, your mental health is as important as your grades. I deliver this message to you earnestly because avoiding burnout and maintaining balance is the absolute true key to long-term academic success. All these strategies we talked about, spaced repetition, deep work, active recall, they aren't meant to make you study forever. They're efficient tools designed to get your work done faster so you can actually step away from the desk and live your life. Which brings us to our final question for this explainer. What will you change about your next study session? I want to challenge you right now. Don't try to implement every single thing we talked about today all at once. Just pick one new strategy. Maybe you'll try a 2-minute launch tomorrow to beat procrastination, or maybe you'll park your phone in another room and try a 25-minute Pomodoro sprint. Pick just one thing, use it to completely overhaul how you learn, and see the incredible difference it makes. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer. Stay curious and happy studying.